Hey class, today we are looking at chapter 9, organizing the body of the speech. You might be thinking, why are we looking at the body of the speech first? Well, there's a very good reason. So, you actually want to construct the body of the speech before you do the beginning introduction and conclusion, okay? So, you want to craft the body of the speech first, okay? It's going to save you so much time, I promise. Anywho, okay, so today our main points are slim, but there is a lot, okay? So we're going to look at why organizing is important, right? Why you should care about organization in speech. And then we're going to look at main points, your supporting materials, which we just looked at in chapter 8, and then connectives, right? Connecting those dots in your speech. Okay, so first let's look at why organization is so important. Okay, and you'll see my cute little picture of just like a little organized space. But strategic organization is known as putting a speech together in a particular way to achieve a specific result with your audience. Okay, so you want to be strategic whenever you organize your speech, right? There's a lot going on with communication and speech. So you need to know your audience, all of these things, what your intended goal is, all the things. All right, so just a fun fact, the more organized your speech is, the less anxiety that you'll have as a speech giver, and the more your audience is going to understand you, okay? So, organization is so very important whenever you're trying to craft your presentation. All right. So, to develop a strong speech and to develop strong speech organization, you must command three basic parts of the speech. Okay. And we've already looked at those. You've got your intro, your body, and your conclusion. Okay. So, again, you want to tackle the body of the speech first, right? It's just going to be so much easier for you to create an effective introduction when you know what you're going to say in the body, right? Because usually you want to say, hey, in your introduction, you want to do something catchy, but then you also want to say, like, hey, this is what we're going to talk about today, right? That way your audience knows where you're going. So if you already know the body, like, right, you know what you're talking about, it's going to take you no time to craft the intro and the conclusion. Okay, so let's look at main points. Okay, main points, major points developed in the body of the speech, right? So I always say that even when I start, I'm like, hey, today these are how many main points we have, right? So you can use a different word if you want, but I just always go for main points. Okay, so main points are major points developed in the body of the speech, right? So an example, let's look at this. Example is, our specific purpose is to inform your audience about some major uses of hypnosis. Okay, so we're pretending that this is the speech, right? We're informing, right? Because that's the speech that we're on, informing the audience about major uses of hypnosis. Okay, so our central idea is that there are three major uses of hypnosis today. The first is to control pain and surgery, right? Number one main point, control pain and surgery, right? That's why hypnosis is used. Number two, help individuals quit smoking. Wow. And number three, help students improve academic performance, right? Now, honestly, I could have switched this around because in my audience right now is students. So I probably could have put my main point for number one would be to help improve academic performance. Okay, but this was the example that your textbook gave. So it's always good to assess these things, right? But there's your main points in your central idea. So again, your central idea is literally your thesis statement, your main points shoved into one sentence. Okay. So main point one, hypnosis use surgery as an adjunct chemical anesthesia. Number two, hypnosis is used to help people quit smoking. Number three, hypnosis is used to help students improve academic performance. Boom, you've got your 3 points. Now we're going to go into depth a little bit more with these, okay? But you can see that these main points stand out, right? They don't really collide too much, right? Surgery, smoking, like they stand alone. Okay, so your main points should stand alone, because if they're really similar, then you just want to lump them together. Okay. So I really want you to think of, like, when you eat a meal and you've got the different sections, right? 1, 2, 3, like those plates with different sections. That's what you want to do with your main points, right? You want those different sections. You really want things to be separate, right? But then yet also make sense, right? That's why they're still in the circle. Still has to make sense. Always say in class, make it make sense. Make it make sense. If it doesn't make sense, take it out. Take it out. All right. So let's look at main points continued. Even if your main points aren't stated verbatim in the specific purpose, you want to state them in your central idea, aka your thesis statement. All right. So 2 to 3 main points is really all that we're going to have time for in this class. But in the real world, you're probably going to want to do 4 to 5. Okay. So like presentations for interviews, or it really just depends on how much time they give you. So if you have a 10-minute presentation, you're going to need, it's really just all about you, okay, and how fast you talk, all the things. Like I can drag out 2 main points, so as y'all know. All right, so if you have too many, the audience will have difficulty sorting them out, right? So it's good to keep things more concise. That way your audience can clearly follow along with you. All right. So next, let's again, we're staying on main points, but let's look at strategic order for main points. Okay, so we've already looked at some of these. We've incorporated these in some of our lectures, but we're gonna just build on it right now. Okay, so we have chronological order, points following a time pattern. Then this is a new one that we haven't looked at, spatial order. Okay, spatial order is main points following a directional pattern. Okay, directional pattern. Then we have causal order, main points showing cause and effect relationship. That's really strong. That's something that we'll really look at in persuasive speech. And then also problem solution order, where the first main point deals with the existence of a problem, and the second main point presents a solution to the problem. And you can use that in informative speech. We really talk about it more in persuasive speech. And then lastly, we've got topical order, which we have introduced, which is main points dividing the topic into logical and consistent subtopics, which is what I've told you that I do a lot. So a few new terms here, but really good stuff, right? So this is different ways that you can organize the body of your speech, right? Make your main points make sense and utilize these strategic orders to make it make sense, okay? All right, so just some tips for preparing your main points. Again, you want to keep them separate. Each main point should be completely independent, right? It should stand alone from your other main points. You want to try to use the same pattern of wording for your main points. Just think, Martin Luther King, I have a dream speech, right? Use that same pattern of wording, and then balance out the amount of time devoted to main points, right? You want it to be devoted to, you want it to be balanced, right? So if you have 3 main points, maybe you only spend a minute and a half on each main point. Or, if it's a 5-minute speech, you want maybe a minute and a half, and you only have 2 main points. Maybe you only have a minute and a half, and then you do your intro and conclusion, 30 seconds or something like that. 3 to 5 minute speech, yeah. Your informative is 35. Okay, so now let's look at supporting materials, which we've talked about again in chapter 8. So go back to that lecture if you want more information. But those are going to be really important for you to integrate into your main points. So each main point should have those supporting materials, right? Examples, statistics, testimony, all those things that we talked about in chapter 8. Okay. And then connectives. So really, I just did that, right? I connected our last lecture into this lecture, right? So you want to have those connectives. Connectives are a word or phrase that connects the ideas of a speech and indicates the relationships among them, okay? So just like those little connect the dots, things that you used to do in elementary school, or at least hopefully they still do that. I did them in elementary school. Not showing my age here. But yeah, definitely, connect those dots for your audience. Okay. I really hope that I do that for you guys as students, but do that for your audience. All right. So there's 4 different types of connectives that you're going to really want to incorporate in the body of your speech, okay? And just in general, in all of your speech, okay? We've got number 1 is transitions, number 2, internal previews, 3 is internal summaries, and then 4 is signposts. So I'm going to put these in your feedback all the time, like, hey, this was awesome, but maybe like add more transition statements, or like, hey, I really liked this, but maybe add a few internal previews because you were lacking on time. So like add those in there, okay? All right, transitions we've talked about before indicates when you're finishing one thought and then moving to another. Internal previews lets the audience know what the speaker is about to discuss next. So that's really good to have those like little snapshots in your speeches. All right, internal summaries. I try to do that with you guys. Like, hey, we just talked about this. Now let's move on to this. So it's like an internal summary mixed in with a transition. And then it summarizes your preceding points for the internal summaries, which is so good for your audience. And then number 4, signpost. Signpost indicates where the speaker is in the speech or that focuses attention on key ideas. Okay. So signposts are going to be like, for me in this speech, I would say, hey, this is going to be really good for you guys to listen to because it might be on a quiz, right? So that could be like a signpost. All right. So in conclusion, to wrap up, right? Hopefully you guys are starting to learn some of my cues here, but we talked about why organization is so important in your speech, okay? And especially in the body of the speech. Yes, we're going to look at intro and conclusion later, but the body of your speech, you need to organize that so that people don't get lost, right? You've been an audience member. You don't want to get lost in that speech. We looked at main points, supporting materials. We kind of touched base on that again. And then we looked at connectives, right? Connecting those dots with those transition statements, those internal previews, internal summaries, and those signposts. Okay, so hopefully you learned a lot from today. And yeah, that's all I got.